Hey everybody, welcome back. I wanted to do a video today touching a little bit more on treasure hunts and super treasure hunts. And this is kind of considered, I guess, an addendum to the video I did a few days ago. That was a primer for new and returning collectors. And this one's probably going to feel a little more like a what not to do, but just some things to look out for when you're looking for treasure hunts and super treasure hunts. I will say I've been kind of bad about putting links in the description, but I will try to put a link in the description of this video for one of the websites where you can go to look and see what treasure hunts and super treasure hunts are out there. And it also kind of has a descriptor about what to look for, how to tell them apart, how to tell what is a super or a treasure hunt. Just as a quick recap, in case you didn't watch the other video, Mattel puts out 15 cases of Hot Wheels each year. And in each one of those cases, well, I'll say almost each case of 15 will have a super and a treasure hunt available in those cases. Now, each one that comes to the store, I'm trying to make sure I say this right, each one that comes to the store will almost always have a treasure hunt. Not all of them, but most of them will have a treasure hunt. That would be one like this right here, one like this back here. What's more rare is the super treasure hunt. So there will be a mainline version of the car, and then every so often they replace one of these in the case with something like this, the super treasure hunt. Alright, so the treasure hunts, you can tell the only real difference on them, of course there's no other casting like this in the case, so it's not like it's a different color or something. This will literally be the only casting in that case if there is one. But there is a flame logo on the car. Now that gets confusing to some people, and we'll go over that here in just a second. On the supers, they're a little bit easier to tell. There is, go ahead and put these side by side a little bit so you can tell there's a difference in the paint, and that's usually one of the biggest giveaways. This is called Spectre Flame paint. There's a TH on the car somewhere. And the wheels and tires are two-piece, the tires are rubber, and they call those real riders. On the super, you will see there is a gold flame behind the car on the card there. And on the treasure hunt, there will be a silver flame. Most of them that I've found have writing. I know some of them these days do not. And I think if you have international cards, I believe they usually don't have the writing either, I think. I've seen it both ways, but generally that's the way it is. So getting into some things to look out for, and we'll touch on the supers first. Just know that when people first start collecting, a lot of times it's easy to think that anything is a super, whether it's a regular treasure hunt. Oh, I found a treasure hunt. It's a super, right? And I'm not making fun. That's just a lot of people think that. They see people really clamoring for super treasure hunts, or they maybe see them going for a high price online, and they find this and they're like, "Oh, I found a super." Well, no, it's not, obviously, as we just kind of seen some of the differences. The other thing is people will see that, oh, for this case, they'll look it up and they'll say the super is a 32 Ford, and they'll find this and think, oh, I found the super. That's awesome. Or really what I see a lot of times is they'll find a bunch of these because there's a lot of these. There's usually like 2 in a case, and they'll go somewhere where they've opened 3 or 4 cases and put these out on pegs, and they find, say, like 6 of these, and they're like, I found 6 supers today. And then they'll post that somewhere, and everybody will handily and quickly troll them, usually. Alright, so just remember, this is the super, this is just a mainline, okay? So, some things to look out for. Obviously, if they're in the card, you can tell because you can see the flame logo on the back. One exception to that recently was the green Camaro Super Treasure Hunt. Some of those had the cards mixed up, and I've seen it both ways. There are some supers that are on regular cards, and there are some regular cards that are on, regular cars that are on super cards. So That's the only time I really have seen that in mass, large scale, would be on that green Camaro. But just know that's out there, but that's not normally the case. So, just to go ahead and get out of the super treasure hunt mode here, I'll touch on a couple of other things. If you're buying supers from eBay or possibly some other places, there's a couple of things to be aware of. The first one is, and this is not a super, this is just a car that I had that we took apart for a wheel swap, but you will sometimes see cars that are unspun. That means they weren't riveted together. Usually these are, from my understanding, taken from the factory before they finish assembly, and they're sold on the secondary market. So you might find these. They're usually, almost always, they're going to be loose. They won't be on a card. Um, and there's a collector's market for these out here. They're still sold relatively cheap compared to a carded treasure, or super treasure, I should say. So, not only is there kind of a collector's market for it, but you can also save some money, if you don't care about that. If you're just going to display it, you can put them together, and they will sit there as long as you're not moving them, right? They'll stay together. Also, people are really good at doing, taking mainline cards apart, so taking the blister off of them, and doing customs and putting the blister back on. You can pretty easily do that if you get good at it, and where people can't really tell. And sometimes even if they do a sloppy job, it doesn't look too out of the way. So sometimes you will see people take say, this version of this car, and they will swap the wheels on it. And so they've spent a little bit of time, and maybe, depending on where they got wheels, just, maybe a few cents to $1, maybe a few dollars. And they will try to sell these off as super treasure hunts. Most of the time, I have seen people will say custom treasure hunt. So look out for that word in the title if you're shopping on eBay. If it says custom, they've probably done the wheel swap themselves. Sometimes they paint them, but just know that usually they're not a legit treasure hunt or super treasure hunt. And you can always email or send them a message and ask to see the flame on the car, right? A lot of them will be up front. Obviously, some of them are doing that in hopes that you will just make a mistake and think it's a super and buy it anyway. Some of the customs are better than the supers, so just be aware that there are a lot of fakes out there and there are a lot of unspun. Now, if you want to save some money, you can buy legit treasure or super treasure hunts loose without the card. So if you're going to be opening it anyway, that may be one of the routes that you want to go. Now, on to the treasure hunt. Let's see. So I see a lot of people making the mistake of buying different cars that aren't treasure hunts. One of the only ways that I really know without having a card to look at the back is to get on one of the websites or one of the groups and see what castings were actually treasure hunts. The only lines that have treasure hunts that are officially called that are the main lines, which are the ones that are carded that you shot the pegs. Now you can also find the treasure hunts and the supers in the 9-packs and the 20-packs that won't have a card. I've seen a lot of treasure hunts in 20-packs lately, so you can do that. They will not be in a 5-pack. The 5-packs are themed. They should always have the same cars in them. You should not see a treasure or a super treasure in a 5-pack as of this video. But just be aware you can get them in the 9s and 20s. One of the more common things that I see, I guess we'll do this first since this is a main line. There are some other main lines that are not treasure hunts that have this flame logo. That confuses people. The 5 Alarm's always been one, and this I think this is a Dodge van. This has always been one as well. So if you do see something that has this flame logo on it, don't assume it's a treasure hunt. Check the back of the card. If it's loose and you're buying it from somebody, check one of the reference websites or ask around and see, because it's not always a treasure hunt just because it has that flame logo on it. The other thing is, this is a color change car. There are no treasure hunts in the color change line. This is one of the most common mistakes I've seen, is people buy this van thinking it's a treasure hunt or a super treasure hunt because it has this flame logo. It is not a treasure hunt. The color change line does not have any treasure hunts as of this video. Another one that you'll see, I don't have in front of me, but in the skateboard series that they have out, I can't remember the casting. I think it's a white car, but it has a big flame logo on it. The skateboard series does have a treasure hunt. I don't have one in front of me, but they actually will say on them, it's got the flame logo, and it actually says treasure hunt around the logo. And the skateboards in those will have clear wheels. As far as I know, the only treasure hunts in those are the ones that are just the skateboards. There are no car treasure hunts in that line as of this video that I'm aware of. So look out for that. Those are probably the two most common I've seen, is the color change van and then that skateboard with the car in it. Thinking those are treasure hunts. One last thing we'll get to here. The monster truck line actually does have treasure hunts. This is one that gets mistaken for a treasure hunt a lot because it has the flame logo right here. Right, this is a 5 alarm. I think there's a couple of other ones. So those get mistaken for it. On the monster truck line, especially the newer ones, some of the first ones didn't have this, I think. But on the newer ones, you can tell they will have the flame logo. And I think they're all in gold now, but don't quote me on that. I've not looked at my other ones to see. But they will have this red ring around the tire, right? Now, there are a couple of other lines, like I'm going to say they're, like a special collection of monster trucks. Usually they got a little bit bigger card, and you can tell because the truck is on the back of the card. Some of those have the red ring around the tires, but there is not a treasure hunt in those groups that I know of, all right? One of the other easiest ways to tell if you have the card is that it will have the treasure hunt symbol right here on the back of the card, right? So just be on the lookout for that. There aren't as many monster truck treasure hunts. I think they do 4 per year now. So, and sometimes there is another casting that year that is similar, just a little bit different. Sometimes there is not. So for instance, there was a Wienermobile last year that was a regular, and then there was one that had like grill marks on the hot dog, and that was the super, right? Or not the super, I'm sorry. It was the treasure hunt. So just be aware, and there are no super treasure hunts in the Monster Truck series. It's just regular treasure hunt. So just some things to look out for. Hopefully this video has been helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. If there's anything that I missed that you see people doing, feel free to add that below. I'm always looking for new ways to help people out, things to look out for myself. And, if it's something that's important enough, we'll touch on it in another video. Thanks for watching. Check out some of our other videos and check out the link in the description below. Thanks. Happy hunting.